Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we are back taking our very first look at the new Tier 7 Hybrid American Battleship or Battle Carrier, the Nebraska. So, with that being said, let's look at our commander. Once again, we're running William Sims with Paolo DeRevel, Andrew Cunningham, Flammable Cannoneer, Gyrating Drill Bits, Marksmanship, Reaching Out XXL, and Fight Fire with Fire. Just as a heads up, I know you guys, there's been a lot of people saying, oh, you sound different, I'm sick. I'm still sick. I'm just trying to power through these videos for you guys. So, bear with me, guys. Alright, for the loadout, AA Guns Mod 2, Steering Gears Mod 2, Concealment System Mod, and the Artillery Plotting Room with the Epic module. A lot of people also ask, how do I get epic and legendary mods? I've made a whole video on this, but if you don't know, you get your regular module by buying it, and then you press and hold X to upgrade it if you've got enough steel. It takes 500 to upgrade to epic, and it takes another 2,000, I believe, or 1,500, something like that, to upgrade to a legendary. Alright. We are fully upgraded. We are running the Observation Seaplane. You do have the aerial torp strike, obviously. This one is a little bit different. It's smaller, and you only have 13.5 kilometers range. It takes 12 seconds to get on target. Still does 7,600 damage per torp, so they hit hard for what they are. And then the torp speed is slow as crap, 45 knots. We are running the spotter plane. We've got the Italian Unity flag, because if it squints just right, it kind of looks like a Spartan helmet. And then across the Storm camo, which is the new camo for these ships. Alright. Oops. Wrong button. Survivability, 73,900 hit points, which is kind of high for the tier, to be perfectly frank. I think my Iowa with this build was 72,000. I'd have to look, but 23% torp reduction. Now, obviously, the Iowa hull was actually the Tier 8 hybrid carrier. Now we're down into, I believe, a North Carolina or a Sodak hull. I don't know which, right off the top of my head. Airstrike, SB2C, Helldivers, 3,000 hit points apiece, 210 knot flight speed, attack units 4, aircraft per squadron is 4, detectability is 8 kilometers, squadron restoration time still a minute and a half. Torpedoes, each of them drop a single torp. And they are 45 knots, so yeah, slow. The main battery is the 406 millimeter Mark 6, which I believe is the 45 caliber guns from your Sodaks, your North Carolinas, and so on. So keep that in mind. However, they are very accurate. They also get more citadels normally than, say, the 50 caliber guns do, because they are not moving as fast. So they have a tendency not to overpen things that you would normally overpen with the 50 cal. Okay, firing range is 19.4 kilometers, reload time 26.5 seconds, 180 degree turn time 32.7 seconds. HE shell maximum damage 5,700 with a 36% chance to set fires. AP shell maximum damage 14,410. So that is right in line with the Iowas. Despite it being an older gun, it's still got the same amount of damage as the Iowas. With the exception of Missouri, because Missouri has the old Iowa AP damage. Secondary armament, you have the 127 millimeter Mark 32 dual-purpose secondaries. You get 20 of those still firing out to 5 kilometers, reloading in 6 seconds. They fire HE with a maximum damage of 1,800 and a 5% chance to set fires. AA defense is actually a little bit worse on this than even the Iowas, but 20 millimeter Oerlikon Mark 20s, you get a lot. 40 times 2 would be 80, so we'll call it 76. Good lord, my brain shut off. But you get 76 of those doing 232 damage, but only at 2.5 kilometers. And then the 40 millimeter Bofors Mark II, you get 36 of those doing 143 damage per second and reaching out to 4.2 kilometers with this build. And then the dual-purpose main guns, or dual-purpose secondary guns, you got the 127 millimeter Mark II. You get 20 of those doing 151 damage per second, reaching out to 6 kilometers. Maneuverability, 27 knots top speed. Turning circle 760 meters, so it actually turns a little bit better than the later versions, which are based off the Iowa and the Montana hull. This is being based off of either North Carolina or Sodak. It has a little bit better turning circle. Rudder shift time with this build, 13.8 seconds. Concealment, 12.8 kilometer detectability by sea is fantastic. I believe that matches the Kansas, so it's very good. Detectability by air is 10.8. Guaranteed is always 2, and then detectability while firing in smoke, 14.4 kilometers. Statistics. I've only really played it. I played a couple of games last night, and I played one game tonight. I guess I played a game last night, and I played a game tonight. 2 games, 2 victories. Both solid games. Again, I think these things are fantastic. I don't think anybody's really concerned whether they're good or not. They're definitely solid. 45% main gun accuracy. Damage to ships average is 113, which is absurd for the tier. To put that in perspective, I believe my Iowa would be somewhere around 80,000, maybe 90,000 average. Now, I have great games, but still, the average is pretty high. But again, small sample size. But I've been enjoying these things so far, so it's not surprising to have good results, even in a small sample size. Surprisingly, given that this thing is based off of North Carolina, I believe, this thing actually has a 32 millimeter bow, which the North Carolina does not. Obviously, that's to try to help it with competing at Tier 7, so you're not overmatched by 16-inch guns. But honestly, this is a North Carolina hull. I don't understand why it has a 32 millimeter bow. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty confident it's North Carolina. We'll find out. Let's get rid of all the other protection and talk about what really matters, which is the Citadel. And the Citadel on this thing is so absurdly low in the water that unless you really, really try, or unless somebody is shooting at your broadside from a distance, if you're up close, they are going to probably not hit your Citadel. It would be very difficult to hit the Citadel on this thing at anything inside of 10 kilometers, just due to how low it is in the water. And then, of course, further than that, once you get out to like 14, 16 kilometers, somewhere out there, if you're shooting at the broadside, obviously with a little bit of an angle coming in, there's a good chance that you're going to pin that side and go into that Citadel. But still, stingy Citadel on these things makes them difficult to kill. We'll showcase a little bit of that later on. And then overview. Tough, above average base HP, I agree. Airstrike, we already know. And above average superstructure size, which is pretty obvious. Nebraska. When designing the North Carolina class battleships, the F project was developed, a combination of a battleship and aircraft carrier. However, the preliminary design didn't include a flight deck. The aircraft were supposed to be launched by catapult, and their air group was extremely small. If necessary, the project could be reworked into a full-fledged hybrid battleship carrier with the hangar transferred to the stern and a flight deck created. She was designed in 1944. Obviously, she was never built. All right, so with that being said, let's take a look at her. And again, it's an abomination. It's just an abomination. I'm not one to say that I like the look of carriers to begin with. I think they're hideous. Modern carriers are a little less hideous, but let's be honest, it's everything we love about a battleship ruined by a carrier. So, with that being said, let's get into our gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on northern waters, and we're going to spawn mid. Now, we're bottom tier, but we're going to do what these ships do best, which is try to just break through. Now, I'm not saying that you guys need to play as aggressively as I do. You guys know that. I always say that I play aggressively because I make content, right? So, I'm not saying that everybody should be super aggressive, but you also want to pay attention to what's going on around you. Now, right off the bat, there's a carrier in the game. There's hybrids in the game. Only a single destroyer. And so, right at looking at the map, I'm hoping that the guy on my left in the battleship goes left. Supports the side with the carrier, the one that has just a cruiser and a battleship over there. And I'm going to go towards the right. I'm not going to go all the way to the right. I'm just going to go to the right side of the island and start to move in. Because I want to create crossfires, right? That's what we always talk about. Everybody always asks me, how you create crossfires? Or how, I don't understand how you get this or how you get that. I'm working for it, right? Like, I don't just magically get crossfires. People don't just go out and, well, let's be honest, everybody always goes out and plays like idiots. Whether they're on your team or against you, they're going to be goofballs, right? That's just the way it is. However, pay attention to what our Vallejo does here. He's actually going to come across my bow, go in front of the island, and go support the destroyer. Remember, Vallejo is an SAP cruiser. Doesn't have smoke. It is easily overmatchable, has a massive citadel. I understand wanting to help with the destroyer, but you probably want to try to protect yourself as best as possible, because you don't want to throw away your ship. Now, as I move around the side of this island, you can see that the Musashi is here. There's also a Vallejo on the other team, and he's pushing in. So, rather than just leaving this guy to his own devices, I'm going to put the torpedoes way out ahead of him and anticipate that he's going to go along that island, turn in towards my destroyer, right? It makes sense. That's what I would be doing if I was in that position right now, so it makes sense. We aimed the torpedoes, and despite them being the slowest freaking torpedoes on the planet, we lined them up beautifully. And he's going to pay the ultimate price here as we hit him with two good torpedoes and take all of the health off that man. Now, there's an Iowa back here that's bow tanking. Keep an eye on the other battleship that's over to my right. For my brain, that is the Iowa, and it is not the Iowa. And that explains why I put myself in a position later on. You'll see what I'm talking about. But in my head, the guy that's on the mini-map to my right is the Iowa, despite the fact that I know the Iowa is directly off my bow and is much further back. Now we come around the corner, we got a beautiful look to finish off the Vallejo. That was never in question. He'd already lost all his hit points. But look at the shot that I get here. Musashi is full broadside right now and begging for it. Now I know that there's a couple of battleships out there that might want to take a shot at me, so I'm not going to be over-angled to them. Now, I thought about shooting the destroyer here, but we have the SAP cruiser right here, right? So instead, I knew that the destroyer was probably dead. We're going to go ahead and shoot the Musashi. We get absolutely gorgeous dispersion, and we punch through and somehow only get 2 citadels. I don't understand that one. If you can figure that one out, let me know, because there was like 4 rounds that landed in almost the exact same location on the ship. But he also eats a torpedo. He's seemingly on fire or flooding or both. And so I'm going to try to get another shot to try to finish him off. Our Vallejo, unfortunately, gets himself killed. And so we get the shot out, and that's an easy kill. I know I probably wasted my airstrike there, but you just never know if RNG is going to screw you. I would much rather ensure that somebody's dead than leave it up to RNG. You know what I'm saying? If I get the guns out and I hit him and leave him with just enough to get away, well, then the torpedoes are going to finish him off. Or if the torpedoes miss, then I've already shot and my guns will finish him off. You get what I'm saying? I would much rather end that guy than potentially leave it to chance that he survives by some fluke, right? Now, again, in my brain, Iowa is the guy that's on my right. You can see the guy clearly at 2 o'clock, right? And it takes me an embarrassing long amount of time for me, hey, look at that, for me to realize that that is not, in fact, the Iowa. There is, in fact, a Nebraska right next to us. And we're going to showcase that lovely below water citadel that just does not give up citadels very easily. Now, obviously, once you get into Tier 8 and Legendary Tier, the citadels kind of ease up towards the waterline a little bit. And I know we showcased on one of them that the citadel actually rises up in the background, or in the back of the ship, so you can potentially citadel it easier from the back. Now, again, we're looking at this Iowa. Don't always trust the auto-aim, guys, especially with these really slow torps. Go with your gut, right? We know that Iowa's going to make that turn. He's also turning full broadside in front of me, and this is what we talk about with creating our own crossfires. Now, he had already started turning, committing to running away before I ever sent the torpedoes. I dodged Nebraska's torpedoes just by simply going forward, but we land all 4 torpedoes on this Iowa, getting an absurd amount of damage off the torps. And the Nebraska on our right is behind an island, so we don't have to worry about him for the moment. But look at the left and notice that there's actually a 3rd battleship about to come in from behind us. Now, unfortunately, there's nothing I can do about that. I know that it's a La Foudre. We're also being targeted by the carrier at the same time. Carrier's got nothing better to do than shoot at me right now. So the carrier's targeting me. The La Foudre is about to come around the corner on me. Again, I'm counting on overpins and not taking too much damage here. I'm going to try to use the island where I can to take as little damage as possible. Nebraska is actually not looking at us right now, and you can see I just took a nasty hit from that La Foudre. And I'm trying to dodge torpedoes by turning away from the direction they came from, and we do manage to dodge. But this guy is actually going to load up HE in his La Foudre, and we just damage con like a dum-dum. I damage controlled a turret getting knocked out so that I could get another shot on the Nebraska. And immediately for my troubles, I get a double fire against me, right? Not only that am I going to get a double fire, but here in a moment, they're going to get the perma flood on me as well. I don't know whose torpedoes this was, but they get a flood on the very first torpedo. Now, fortunately, I get my torpedoes out before I go down, but just poor damage control management there for me. You don't always want to fix your gun. I know it's always one of those things that we think about in the moment, and you're like, oh, get my guns online, I need to shoot this guy. But more often than not, it's going to bite you in the butt because you're going to need that damage control very soon anyway. And that's a prime example of it. So be careful with your damage controls. But we did smack the La Foudre with 3 of the 4 torpedoes. He is now about to go down. 9 torpedo hits, not a single flood for us. That is bad RNG. I'm sorry. You saw the very first torpedo I took from the enemy, I'm assuming Nebraska. But the very first torpedo I took was a permaflood, right? Shocker. But I land 9 torpedoes, I don't get a single flood the entire game. It's just RNG giveth, and RNG taketh away. Now, fortunately, Pommern's able to move forward. He's got all of his hit points because he didn't have to fight anything. Like, the worst thing that he would have had to fight was the Nebraska. And we did a good enough job of countering everybody that everybody's low health. I mean, think about it. We did all the damage we could to the Nebraska. We did all the damage to the Iowa that we could. We did damage to the La Foudre. We did damage to the Musashi, the Vallejo. Like, we were instrumental in this victory. We also picked up a solo cap on our way through across the map. But again, would I have been that aggressive had I paid attention to the minimap a little bit better? Like, I knew there was another battleship, but for me, in my head, when I looked at the minimap, I was thinking that the battleship that was at my 2 o'clock was actually the Iowa, and my brain didn't register that. I'm going to chalk that one up to me being sick, but either way, team comes through, they finish the job. Nebraska isn't long for this world. You can't win 1v5 with no hit points very often, right? It's pretty rare. But, yeah. 156,000 damage, 22 planes shot down, a solo cap, 2 kills, 9 torp hits, 2 defense ribbons. I mean, we did everything that we needed to do to give our team the best chance of winning. Our left flank completely steamrolled that side. Our right flank steamrolled the right side, and then the middle held as long as it could. So we did everything that we could, and turned out to be a good result. Shocker. 156,000 damage, first blood, high cal, top of the leaderboard, 3,200 base XP with 2 kills. Petro gets the honorable mention from the left flank. Let me know what you guys just... I know a lot of you guys are enjoying these. There's a lot of hate for these things out there already. People just don't understand how to play against them or whatever. But so far, I haven't had too much trouble playing against them. It's... you know, just a refreshing new play style. You know, it's something different. Gets people moving. Gets people... I like them. I like them. And I think they're, as much as I hate to say it, I think they've actually made the game a little bit more enjoyable from both ends. I've been against them. I've played as them. And I'm enjoying both, to be perfectly honest. But yeah, I'm interested to see what you guys think. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.